Pursey, lead singer of Sham 69. Though it isn't something he welcomes, the band has become the principal focus for today's new skinheads, who repeatedly cause trouble at Sham's gigs. And there are signs that even Jimmy Pursey may be finding it all too much to handle.
They want a leader. They picked me as leader. I never wanted to be a leader. No way. All I wanted to be was a spokesman. All I wanted to be was get up on stage and say exactly what I was thinking.
But has it got rather out of hand?
Of course it has. I mean, look at me. You've only got to look at me for an example to see how out of hands it's got. Because I'm not me anymore.
Whether Jimmy Pursey likes it or not, over the past year or so, more and more kids in London have been adopting the skinhead look and making him their figurehead. The Sham Army, as they've come to be known, have a growing reputation for violence both at Sham concerts and elsewhere. Skinhead fashion and behaviour are now being revived. But how does today's movement compare with the original skinhead era of the early 70s? Dave, Paul, Addy and Mick were amongst the first to become skinheads at that time. Paul described where he thought the look had come from in the first place.
I think it's because it's a working class thing, you know. It started in the East End, so I mean, I think it stems from the dockers and people who worked on the docks, you know, wearing boots and army trousers and things like that, you know, the braces. It's all a symbol of the working class man, you know. You know, it's something that hits back at society, the upper classes. I think it's a class battle. That's how it started out, you know.
Do you think that another part of it was that when you were all dressed up, you frightened... The way you looked was quite...
You had three advantages, like if you had your hair short and you wore big boots and you had a steel comb in your pocket sharpened, you had three advantages on someone who... You got boots, you got no hair so he can pull it, get you down, kick, and you got a comb.
Sharp comb to slash his face.
And it was just a threatener, like anyone, you know, they knew. You might have used kids like a man who would smash, slept all over the place, but he was trying to act a man.
I feel so he's saying that I'm me.
And what sort of people were you fighting?
That was only
other
straights.
skinheads.
Apart from other skinheads.
Mainly it used to be rival packs that used to meet, you know. Rival packs of skinheads, you know. Yeah. Some said, right, we can defeat this town, we take it over, and we make it ours. Because we used to take greaser clubs, you know. We used to go down there and make it our own club. It's just a matter of, you know, coming heavy on one particular group.
I want all you skinheads to get up on your feet. Put your braces together and your boots on your feet. And give me some of that old moon stomping. Get ready. We got 3 million miles to reach on the moon. So let's start getting happy now. Ready? Yeah, 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 yeah.
The skinheads of the original era developed an entire way of life out of violence. Their whole attitude was one of menace. Anything or anyone might provide them with an excuse for bother. In a mindless way, they picked on almost anybody. Rival skinheads, hippies, greasers, tourists, squaddies and blacks. But they were notorious for the viciousness with which they picked on one particular group, gays, or queers as the skins called them.
Queer bashing, that was a bad
sport.
thing because we never knew which was the queer, really. If a guy looked a bit on the queer side, that was it, he had it. But it didn't mean he was queer necessarily. It's just a matter of digging into him, finding out.
Well, that was the sport. I mean, it was easy sport, queer bashing, because they usually fight back.
Yeah, right.
It was a change because, I mean, you go out one day and you get your head kicked in and you're in hospital for a few days and you come out and you're all ready for more, you know. So you start off getting your confidence back by beating up some queers.
Do you ever look back on all that and think, oh God, I really beat up some innocent people?
Yeah, I do actually, because it was a part of growing up, you know. I mean, I was only 13, 14, 15 years of age, you know. And, it's a part of growing up. I don't think I could do it now. Perry
Haynes is a journalist and fashion designer and is writing a book about skinheads. How does he explain how they pick their targets?
You'll find that they simply picked on a minority, a group smaller than themselves. As a pack, they're relatively strong and could afford to attack them without risking injury in return. Subsequently, in one area, you may have packy bashing, where there is an influx of that community. Elsewhere, queer bashing, squaddy bashing, or whatever. I don't think that really based deeply inside they had any particular objection to one particular minority group. It was simply an enemy. With the queer, for instance, is the antithesis of everything that the skinhead hates. That he's passive, that he doesn't wear stylised, sharp creased clothes. I think when they used that word, they weren't referring to sex, homosexuality, or whatever, but simply somebody they couldn't understand. That wasn't anything in any way affiliated to their movement.
It was obviously their clothing as much as anything else which gave the original skinheads their identity. The cropped hair, Ben Sherman shirts, braces, Levi's or stay-pressed trousers rolled up to reveal their boots, the fighting weapons. The uniform was almost compulsory, allowing individuals very little variation. Canning Town in the East End was one of the places the skinhead revival started 18 months ago. Do the new skinheads there place so much importance on the way they dress?
Well, you're different, aren't you? You jack the ledge, you're walking along the road, and you get people looking at you, and they sort of stand back, standoffish. They don't want to come too close to you. You're all right, you're toasty.
Why do you think the skinhead thing started all over again and started round here?
Well, because in a lot of the way, a lot of the punks are middle class, and they were still saying it was street music, but it was all down to middle class people and everything, and they was walking around swearing and everything, thinking there was sort of something outrageous, you know, just because they was doing it. When it weren't, if it was like working class, then it was down to people like us. Yet punk weren't, because it just weren't us, you know, not that type of thing. So it just sort of went on from there.
What about the clothes that they wore? Was it partly not wanting to buy those expensive clothes?
Well, for a start, you can't afford nothing like that, can you? I mean, £30 for a pair of trousers and all that. You know, it's just down to them. They could afford it, whereas we couldn't. So you had to be something different, yet still things that you could afford. And it was just sort of down to that's the type of things you could afford.
I was fed up with punk, I was fed up with soul, I was fed up with hippies, everything. And I see them, and at the time it looked not smart, but it just looked a bit tasty like. So I thought that's the thing to be, not because of fashion-wise, but because I didn't want to be a soulie, because everyone's a soulie. But I didn't want to be punk, because that's anti-fashion, but I did want to be anti-fashion, but not sort of in a punk sense, what I mean, like, you know?
So the thing about a skinhead thing is it's a very definite uniform, isn't it?
Yeah, it's anti-fashion, but now it's turned into fashion, isn't it? But first of all, it was anti-fashion.
And what did you do? What were the first things you bought? I mean, what?
Stay press, Ben Sherman, braces, brogues, and all things like Arrington. First thing in it, Arrington.
So why has it come back again?
I think a lot of it is it's a reaction. It's a reaction against what happened to punk. Punk was, as you say, originally supposed to be a working class cult, a reaction to fashion. But in fact, as we've all observed now, became yet another product, something you could buy for £30. Originally, the essence of it was that anybody could understand and comprehend affecting their own image within that culture. They could tear, stencil, rip or burn. But subsequently, it became, the press, etc., made it more attractive. It became a product, and therefore you would pay ridiculous sums of money to buy it with the tear. It was full of contradiction, and so youth now then growing up and searching for their identities turned to skinhead, which is a little more pure.
When the skinhead look first appeared, a large part of its attraction came from the fact that it offered a working-class alternative to the largely middle-class fashion of the day. The skins of the time didn't think of themselves as being scruffy. The clothes were actually quite expensive, and the look they were aiming for was clean-cut and stylish.
I would never have been anything else. I wouldn't have been a greaser. They're too dirty. You know. I mean, when at that time there was about 3 or 4 options that you could do. You could either become a skinhead, become a freak and freak out and listen to music, or you could become a greaser, you know, and be a I mean, being a greasers are filthy you know.
You also had this thing where you had hippies, right? And hippies had you know. You also had this thing where you had hippies, right? And hippies had long hair, rejected society, right? Which was the same type of thing as what punk is today. Rejecting society with the bondage and the pins and everything. So skinheads came about because they said, we want to work in the factories and do this and do that, same as what you want to do, but we want to show you what anarchy's really about.
It's gonna be a booster breakout!
Sham 69 may be said to have encouraged anarchy amongst their supporters in the past, although it is now something Jimmy Pursey is fighting to control. Sham 69 and the new Skinheads came to the public's attention together. The band's success helped swell the ranks of the Skins, and their growing notoriety in turn sold more records for Sham. But success and the growth of the Sham army have brought their own problems for Pursey, who is anxious that the band should lose their present reputation. The street philosophy to which he tried to give expression has now turned against him. A hardcore of the audience repeatedly disrupt the band's gigs. Each feels betrayed by the other.
I've always believed that I've wanted across to them kids, and they are the same as me, and I want to be a part of them. And whether anybody else likes it or dislikes it, I want to be the one, right, that tried at least. Whether I've failed now and I have to destroy whatever I've done, right, and get out, right, or I'll always be able to turn around and say, well, I tried. You kept kicking me in the mouth. So therefore, what the bloody hell do you expect a human being to possibly try and do?
The name of this band is Sham 69. There are a few people in this country that do not like us. Well, because of them, tonight is our last gig. This one is called Sham 69 is Innocent. News of the world's gonna write about us, all the papers and all that stuff. We don't care what you say, we're Sham 69, okay? 69 is innocent, Sham 69 is innocent, Sham 69 is innocent, okay?
They found out in an interview that I used to be a skinhead, right? So they said, you know, we found a band at last, you know what I mean? So a couple of people got their hair cropped. Hence, like, loads of kids got their hair cropped because what happened was, it was the only way they could identify themselves, right, with being a Sham 69 fan, like, you know, cropped hair, he's a Sham 69 fan straight away. But what happened was, it defeated everything that I believed in. Because what happened was, I was going out on stage saying, look, mods are dead, this is dead, that's dead, anything's dead as soon as it's played, right? Because I believe, like, rock and roll died as soon as someone played it, because as soon as someone played it, someone copied it, it becomes commercial, so-and-so and so-and-so. And so, therefore, it's not a feeling anymore. So what happened was, I was going out, and there's all, you imagine, there's all these skinheads, and I'm having to say to these skinheads also, right, that you know, there's also the myth, like, you know, that goes around that, you know, 99% of people that follow Sham 69, like, you know, cropped hair, Dr. Martin boots, British Movement, National Front badges on, like, they go around kicking shit at everybody. Well, this is a fallacy, you know, and a lie, like, you know, because, and you've come to this small town like Hersham, which on the map you can't even find, right? And you found, say, 20 to 30 kids that don't even know what the National Front means. And they follow Sham because They feel that they want to follow Sham because of the music they play and what we believe in.
The majority of the kids who go to Sham gigs are just ordinary 14 and 15-year-olds following the latest fashion. Hardly angels, but not the National Front fanatics of popular mythology either.
The skinheads that cause the trouble, but they're not really true skinheads. They just have the skinhead cut to make it look as though they're Sham fans.
Yeah.
And they cause the trouble. Like I went to a gig with Jimmy the other day, well, not the other day, ages ago, at the Rainbow. And I was backstage, and in the front there was a couple of skinheads banging this guy's head against the scaffolding, and every time he came up, you know, there's blood more and more. And you know, it's just a bad image, really. That's what gets the image.
I went with it.
It's just the skinheads, isn't it? It's the skinheads that cause the trouble, but it's not the true skinheads. It's the NF and the British movement with the haircut short.
I see what you mean. So there are people who might have like, the same clothes on as you, but you know
but they
that
haven't got the same. Like we don't. Like Harry said, we don't go looking for the fights. They come to us. But they, the NF and the British movement, they go to the gigs to cause trouble, and that's what just upsets everyone, doesn't it? You know.
Do you think that people like the National Front are using skinheads? I mean, there's been a lot written up in the papers.
They have their haircut short to make it look as though the skinheads are doing it, but it's not really. They make, like, someone came up to me, are you a member of the British movement? You're a skinhead. And I said, no, I'm not. And I hit him. Because, the British movement's, it's just a load of, well, I won't say it, but it's a load of rubbish, isn't it, But, like, Basil, where are you, Basil? There he is, right? Yeah. Right? We're all skinheads. If we were British movement, he wouldn't be here now, would he?
No. I mean, do you ever get any stick, Basil, at gigs? Have people parked you at Sham gigs and giving you a bad time?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. What do you do?
Run.
None of the skinheads we spoke to were members of either the British movement or the National Front now, though some had been last year.
A lot of them are in the National Front, I reckon. I mean, they started off earlier in the year. It was all in, the British movement started getting up, the British movement skinheads, because it got a bit of publicity in the press about British movement skinheads going to Sham concerts, and they jumped on the bandwagon, like they followed along with it. And a few skinheads was in it, like I was in it, and a couple of other blokes was in it. But we've left it now. But there's still a few in there, and they carry on with it because they want to. They're anti-black, anti-this, anti-communist, and all this. I mean, they've got to live with the people. Most of them in the Socialist Workers' Party who's against the blacks and who's against the National Front, who's talking about all this living together and all that jazz, they're all living out in the sticks. They don't have to live with the people. When you don't have to live with the blacks or the communists, well, that's when you say, oh, well, everyone live together, because they've always got the money to move out of the place. They've always got the money to move out of the area.
Many of today's skins, like the originals, are racially prejudiced. But this time round, it's not a basic part of the skinhead philosophy. Many are more tolerant today and don't make so much of the uniform either as their predecessors did.
There's no thing, it's not a piece of paper what says skinheads wear this. A skinhead could wear flured pink and green trousers, but it'd still be a skinhead.
What is it though?
A skinhead is skinhead. That's the only way you describe it, though, isn't it?
Nick, what do you think of the skinheads now?
Myself, I think a load of pufters.
What, the new ones?
Yeah.
Why do you think they're a load of pufters?
Well, nowadays, they say skinhead is it wasn't a fashion, it was an era. And no way you get to bring an era back, no matter who you are, I've seen them, like this weekend. There was a skinhead and a punk walking along together, and it was like walking up and down the seafront as if they were looking for the era, you understand me? Like, skinheads just pop out of a machine, and it just wasn't there. It's like, being on a station, there's no train coming.
Once, skinheads were a single tribe up and down the country, identified by their clothing and their violent behaviour. Today's skins are confined almost entirely to London. Once, skinheads would gather in large packs, especially for the ritualistic bank holiday fighting. but now they come together in numbers only at the Sham gigs. They follow the band with the same fanaticism as they might have followed a football team. Jimmy Pursey, the victim of an increasingly vicious adulation, knows why.
Kids today miss out, right, on that form of rebellion, right, that was again. Why did the Teds come about again last year, right? Because there's no more music to follow. What music can follow now? What can we follow now? Saturday Night Fever, that was obvious that was only going to last for 5 minutes flat, right? Because everybody knows that you can't grab Saturday Night Fever. You can only live it out at the discotheque, right? Which is another type of thing of picking the birds up at the discos, which has been going on for yonks and yonks and yonks. But it was no form of rebellion, right? But a kid can walk down the street with cropped hair. A punk can walk down the street, right? And an old lady say, look at that idiot with purple hair or something like that. But if a woman doesn't look at a skinhead in the same light, she says, oh God, you know, is he going to smash somebody up or what's going on? And they're afraid. And also, that the kids know of this, that it's got this frightening element about it. If you watch If, Clockwork Orange, Oh Lucky Man, they're the three things that sum up what could happen, right? But they're also, there's got to be an epilogue and one after, right? To sum all them three up in one whole thing, because it bloody can happen, because that is exactly what I've been going on about, singing in them songs and going on and on and on about. Because I've said to you in this interview today, in 24 years, you've had all these little tribes come about, right? And it's changed in 10 years, in 5 years, in a year. It's getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and the kids cannot handle what is going on. They cannot. They keep classing us. Like, everybody around us keeps putting us in the football hooligan category, right? When I wrote a song called Kids United, right, they said it was a football chant song. I didn't write that because I researched into a commodity of writing a song for football hooligans or trying to be the next Slade, right? I wrote that song because I'm Jimmy Pursey. I was in a band that wanted to get across to kids of today, right? But no, they chuck me they chuck me on the floor and they keep jumping on me and hitting me. But I keep trying to get back up and saying, no, you're not going to bury me.
This number was written for all you lot. This number we got classed as a football hooligan band. Well, let me tell you, we wrote this from there. So if you don't trust us, why should we trust you if the kids are united? You.